Welcome to We the People with Umair Khan, and today I am continuing my conversation on sexual abuse and religious institutions and religious leaders. This time we're going to look at it from a mental health perspective, and for that purpose, instead of once again me talking, I've got my guest here. I will let her introduce herself. Riffat.
Assalamu alaikum. Thank you for having me on. So my name is Riffat Yusuf, and I have done masters in psychology from Pakistan. I was working there for a few years. Then when I moved to Canada, I've recently started working here as psychotherapist. I am registered with the College of Registered Psychotherapists of Ontario here in Canada. And my most of my work experience is with children and adults who have been victims of sexual abuse.
All right. Well, thank you for your time. So let's dive right in. Now, I shared two cases that took place here in Texas, and both were part of the Islamic centers. I'm going to start with, how does this shape an individual's personality from a mental, cognitive, social behavior aspect? If someone goes through this at any age, let's say 13, 14, how does that shape the rest of their lives?
So what actually happens is that definitely this is a type of trauma that someone goes through, be it a little kid who's 3 or 4 years old, or a teenager in early teens. So this is a huge trauma for that child. And unfortunately, this is the type of topic that not only in our culture, in Pakistani society and culture, even here in Western societies, this is the type of topic that people just want to brush under the carpet. They do not want to directly talk about it. So when someone goes through it, they actually are they have very limited resources or options to share their experience with someone and get help to heal from that trauma. So internalizing that trauma actually have huge impact. Their personality would generally, they would be overall, as we can call them, a negative person. They will not have a very positive outlook towards people or towards life in general. They will not have confidence in their own self and in their abilities. And they also tend to blame themselves for anything that goes wrong around them, because they had this belief put in them, or they have this belief in themselves that when the sexual abuse happened to them, that must have been something they did wrong to deserve that. So that belief becomes internalized, and in every situation, which is, even if it's unrelated to them, in extreme cases, anything would happen somewhere and they would think that there has to be something about me that makes this thing happen, or it's happening just because of me.
So in this case, how do feelings of guilt, shame, remorse factor in growing up and even interacting with your parents or siblings or any new individuals?
The guilt that is associated with, now we are talking from the point of view of a victim, right?
Mm-hmm.
So when they feel the guilt and the shame associated with this topic, because the society implies in a way to everyone that talking about this is bad. So if something like this happened, there is guilt that I am responsible. There is shame that how can something like this be happen, or how can I speak with someone. So that becomes sort of a foundation of their personality. So their personality development is based on, instead of any positive personality traits, their personality is formed on these negative traits. So their foundation is negative, which would it sometimes it sounds like maybe it's not related, but actually most of their issues with forming new relationships, even trusting someone to make a new friend, generally trusting someone is huge in victims of sexual abuse. They have really hard time to trust someone. And when you're building new relationships, even friendships with your peers, or as they grow up, they get into the age of forming new relationships for their life partners. But those relationships always have the issue of trust, because their experience of sexual abuse have made it sort of impossible for them to build trust between people.
And you hit a very good point there. Now, does that also mean that such individuals may at some point in time evolve into the very beings who did all that to them?
Yes, that is very possible. And majority of the people who at this time, if we go deeper into the background of the people who are the abusers at this time, majority of the times, maybe more than 90% of the times, we will find that they have experienced something like that or witnessed something like that in their childhood. Because even for them, if they have just witnessed it, that is sort of a norm for them. They are brought up with feeling that this is something that is okay. So to answer that question, yes, when someone goes through this type of abuse in their childhood, there is 90% or more than 90% chance that when they grow up, they might be the person who becomes an abuser.
I'm glad we started this part also. So how on the mental health spectrum do we, if I use the word judge or gauge these perpetrators then? Because obviously in more cases, they have been the recipients of such abuse. So have they not been the victims? So how should we deal with them appropriately? Yes, accountability, but how other ways we should tackle this?
First thing I think would be, even if it's the perpetrator, him or herself, or if it's the victim, the very first thing is to give them the feeling of being understood, and give them the feeling that they are believed whatever they say. So when we have, let's say, have a group of perpetrators that we're working with, just to help them to get over this, so first thing we will work on is to build rapport with them, and give them this confidence that whatever they will share, we will believe them, and they will not be judged, or they will not be treated differently just because there is this type of history associated with them. Because due to a huge stigma attached to this topic, we don't talk about it, we openly. So the people who have been through this as victims, and the people who are perpetrators, even if they realize that this is something which is wrong, but they are unable to control themselves, then they need to be understood and given the confidence that we are here to help you. Because otherwise, they know that no one will believe us, people will hate us for what we have been doing, and no one is going to be there to help us if we go forward to receive some help.
So really, I mean, coming from our culture standpoint, we can't really jump to conclusion from an accountability perspective. We have to understand it from a mental health, from a patient perspective.
Yes, this is a mental health issue. It's not it's not something we can fit into any other area. This is totally a mental health issue, and it has to be dealt in the same way.
Now moving on to the community aspect of it. In your experience, how have various mental health experts in specifically South Asian community, especially within that Pakistani community, been approached or their skills utilized for various mental health initiatives for sexual abuse cases in particular or in general?
Actually, as I said, that there's a huge stigma attached to this topic. So in South Asian community or in Pakistan generally, even though there is more awareness that those cases are being brought forward more and more. But from the giving them help perspective, almost nothing is being done, because still people think that it's a stigma, and frankly people would even look down on a therapist even who is working on helping them. So it's like, if I when I was in Pakistan, if I would tell someone that my area of work is this, they would just be like, are you sure you want to work this field? It's
Oh, wow.
like people are, our community, even here, they just do not want to even hear the word sexual abuse. So if I would say, that's particularly in this field, if anything has been done, there has been nothing done openly, nothing at all. Like, people might be a little bit of awareness, so people might be doing something or helping someone, um, but not, people are still not opting to go to a therapist to uh, get guidance on how to deal with this. Or even if they say that, okay, we have found out that one of our kid has experienced this, so I want to take my child to therapy, they will not think that it's not just the child who needs therapy. The other family members also need therapy, because just knowing that your own kid has been through, it's trauma for parents as well. So parents also need therapy. They also need to speak out what they feel, and to share their feelings, and even to let out their anger in front of the therapist in a safe place where they will not be judged, and where they are allowed to share every type of feeling. Lots of work that needs to be done in this area.
Now, the religious context of it, we have a very broad code of life. Okay, our religion, Islam itself, transparency, cleanliness, truthfulness, openness, equality in terms of the young and the old, and accountability. So, even with all those, why is it that our society, be it culturally or be it from a religious standpoint, we have dropped the ball on this? Whereas the Western society, they have been opening up with these conversations, and I believe they are far ahead of where we should have been. So where do you think, from a professional standpoint, we dropped the ball collectively?
These cases happening in the religious settings more, or like in madrasas and stuff like that. But my own personal point of view is that in Pakistan, the Maulvis that are being trained in madrasas, at I'm not sure if you have ever visited any madrasa, but I have, because we had one right across from our house when I was in Pakistan. So the they are not given too much opportunities to go out of their madrasa to socialize with other people, or to even talk to other people. They are kind of like they are in confinement, and they have to just stay within their own little world. And the way we all know how the madrasa teachers or students are being taught, the teachers are always aggressive, they are beating them, and the students feel suppressed, and they feel like they do not have any power or control on anything. And sexual abuse is all about power dynamic. So when they are kept in those type of circumstances for a long time. Maybe I'm not sure how long they stay in, 6-7 years. So after that, when they go out, first of all, it's kind of odd for them to be interacting with other people who are not from the same background as them. And then when they find out that they do have sort of power on circumstances a little bit, so they use that power, which turns into an abuse of that power, and which unfortunately becomes sexual abuse. They do it to boys, girls, whoever is coming to uh, learn Quran from them. So unfortunately, this the group of people who we should all be trusting the most, they have turned out to be the people that, after recent more and more news now, they have turned out to be the people who we cannot trust at all.
Right. And I want to reiterate here, anyone listening, that the reason I have picked up religious institutions in terms of Islamic religious institutions is because of my faith. It is not only that this happens in Islamic institutions, it has happened in the Catholic Church, it has happened in other faiths around the world. But the only reason I have picked the Islamic religious leaders is because I belong to this, and it is only fitting that I discuss matters related to the scope of the ecosystem I belong to. So I just wanted to lay that out in case you happen to be listening and you're thinking, oh my goodness, so what goes on in Islamic centers? No, it happens everywhere. I'm only focusing on this because of my faith and because I want to have this conversation coming from within. How do we then get Islamic centers to encourage these conversations, these mental health awareness conversations, and then leading into sexual abuse conversations or sexual education? Well, that is way down the road, but starting with
Mhm.
mental health awareness, how do we start with that?
So I would suggest that people like me who belong to that community and they are trained in this field, we should be the ones to take the initiative. We contact the religious leader of our area, of our community, and then ask them if they would like us to go in and talk to the attendees in the masjid about the mental health, general mental health issues. Maybe we can actually arrange a kind of a seminar or information session for religious leaders. Like, let's talk. If I'm talking about Ottawa, I can, if I'm arranging information session like that, and then I send invites to all the major 6 or 7 mosques that are here, and even to the churches as well. And I send them an invite that this is information session and I want you guys to attend it, so that you are more aware of when someone comes to you for guidance, then you are able to pick up the red flags and be better, in a better position to help people.
And it becomes an organic growth which just automatically snowballs into a system that develops over time.
Exactly, yeah.
All right. Okay. Now, one question I have to ask this. Why is it that we focus more on prayers and namaz without professional help?
We do not want to talk about the stigma attached to any type of mental health issues. And also, secondly, our general public, if I can use that term, we do not know how to address that issue. So if someone is sharing with us, like for example, I'm not a professional, but someone comes to me and tells me about having issues with panic attacks and something, I do not know what to do because I'm not trained in it. So I would just say, oh, maybe you need to, whenever you feel like you're having the panic attack coming up, you can go do wuzu and do some Quran recitation, or you can pray 2 rakat for it and stuff like that. Because I don't know how to handle that. And many times when people, when someone shares their mental health issue with someone, they just want to speak with someone. And again, being a general public person, I do not know that I am needed only to be there to lend my ear to that person. We automatically start thinking of, okay, what can I suggest to help that? Like we automatically go into the I need to help this person mode. And for that, since mental health issue is a stigma, we do not want to think about it or even suggest that person to go and consult a mental health professional. We just say, okay, make your connection with Allah more deeper, make your connection with God, with whoever you pray to or whoever you believe in, and that will help you. So that is the reason why people go that way instead of going towards or even just acknowledging the mental health issues.
And so many times, a person speaking with another person may want that instant validation about what they're sharing, as opposed to praying and then getting a sign or getting a feeling or just feeling that contentment. I guess that also plays into that.
The person who's sharing with us, they just need us to validate their feelings and empathize a little bit. And empathy is not something natural. You can learn to be empathetic. So it's you just need to practice a bit, and you will be a perfect person for others to come to and share their feelings and thoughts if you know how to just validate their thoughts and validate their feelings, be empathetic. And then if you think that the issue that they are saying is beyond beyond the everyday issues, you can just suggest them that maybe you should look into going for counseling or therapy. There's no harm in going to therapy. In these times, we need to realize that going to therapy does not make you crazy. It's just that you are going so that you can optimize your mental health or mental well-being.
Plus, maintaining that confidentiality and integrity of that conversation, as opposed to me telling you, hey, you know what, so and so came to me and I don't think he's feeling well, so he or she might be going to a psychologist. So, also maintaining that confidentiality, because those words were shared in confidence.
Yeah, exactly. So if they are sharing anything personal, because many times when someone is sharing whatever the issue they're having, they would not tell all the details because there must be some personal details that they do not want to share with them, so that they don't think bad about us. So that's why we are not telling them. And we are obviously we are scared that if I tell this thing to them, the word will go out and everyone will know about it. But if you go to a therapist, you will still get to share your feelings, but you will know that the therapist is not going to share it with anyone at all, because that's the first thing that we talk about, and first thing that we abide by is the confidentiality of whoever comes to us. Unless there is any threat to anyone's life, we never share anything with anyone. So that is also a huge plus point for going to therapy.
Because violating that confidence would then become a legal problem also.
Exactly.
For
Yeah.
malpractice and so many other consequences.
Yeah.
Moving on to rehabilitation, are there any particular steps, long or short-term steps, in terms of rehabilitation of such victims?
Well, generally what we could like I have not come across any specific program for that, or something that any organization runs, that we can say that, okay, if we find out about someone who has been through this, so they can join that program, like Alcoholic Anonymous kind of thing. But generally, I think for their rehabilitation, the first thing is, as we talked about it, validation, giving them acceptance, feeling of acceptance, and giving them the confidence that whatever they're telling us, they will be believed. And especially when it is with the kids, we also have to assure them that we believe it was none of their fault, because kids Our kids, somehow they think that it must have been something I did wrong, and that's how I'm punished for my being naughty to my mom or something like that. So the first steps would be to give that confidence, and then we can work on other constructive or positive activities so that they can channel their energies towards constructive activities or hobbies, which will keep their mind off from going through the thoughts or the memories of whatever happened to them. Because that's another thing about trauma, that it keeps playing back in your mind, and every time it will play again in your mind, the picture would play again, and it will have deeper impact than last time. So the impact starts getting multiplied, and that's how they become more and more aggressive and even mentally unstable, because every time those thoughts come to their mind, they have even deeper impact than the last time.
And would it be safe to say that we should not rush into diagnosis of some other medical condition only because we failed to listen to an individual or a child uh, about something that actually happened?
Yeah, exactly. When what we need to do is, even the healthcare providers, the mental health care providers, parents, teachers, everyone need to be aware and be vigilant of any changes they notice in behavior of the child. Like a child who's very good in studies and all of a sudden has no interest in the classroom, is being distracting even other kids in the classroom. So if the teacher notices that this is a sudden change in the child's behavior, instead of just going straight to the parents, saying that your child is not good in the school anymore or stuff like that, then parents will take the child to the doctor. They might just diagnose the child with ADHD and stuff. So if you give the confidence to the child that if there is anything that is bugging you, anything that you want to share with me, you can always talk to me and I will believe you, then we will save a lot of stress on a lot of different people. And even the child will be given the uh, proper care or attention they need.
And that also instills that confidence in the children that okay, my elders have been here for me and they're guiding the way and they're going through this with me.
Exactly. So that is the vital thing. They need to know that someone is there for me. It's not that they will not be against me, they will be there with me.
A few last few questions to just to bring it home
Mhm.
is there a certain, in your experience and your exposure that you've seen both back in Pakistan and in Canada, or you mentioned Ottawa, so have you seen, say, a community of practice of mental health experts, specifically Pakistanis, who have been active within the community? If not, how would you want to go about that?
I have not come across anyone yet, and not anyone from our community. Like here locally in Ottawa, I know there is one organization who do work with uh, people or people who have been through sexual abuse, but even their work is, when I went through their website and read more about it, their work is more towards um, human trafficking and sexual abuse in terms of rape and like the most extreme forms of it. Whereas we know that there is also just showing your body parts to the kid, or touching their bodies, or letting them touch your body. These are also sort of sexual abuse, and these forms also leave as much trauma on the child's mind as if they are being raped. So we should be paying attention to this form of sexual abuse as well. And I have not seen here in Canada, I have not come across anyone who's working on this. In Pakistan, the organization I was working with, that was Sahil, they were working on child sexual abuse. So I know in Pakistan there is an organization, but here I have not seen any professionals from our community working on this field.
In relation to this, what would be your audience for this? To speak about this, to talk about this, who are we looking at as our audience for a mental health, from a mental health perspective? Say, if you were to do it, who would you be talking to as a group of 30, 40 people?
I would say everyone, because everyone needs to be aware of how to handle any situation if they come across it, and how to give initial emotional support to a child or a person who has been through this. So it's literally everyone. So there, we cannot just define a specific population. Maybe in the beginning, or maybe we can just to make a uniform group, we can say that okay, right now we are holding an information session for parents. Then we can say we are holding an information session for teachers. But we know that parents could be teachers as well, and teachers are parents too. So in a sense, it's actually everyone. It could be teenagers who want to learn more about it, because sometimes what happens is, if a teenager has been through this and have not shared about it with anyone, but if they